What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast with me, Trevor, and Kyle. And special guests this week, guests plural, we have Plead the Widow's Cause. So we got three of you guys. Why don't you guys just starting with Brett and then Bill, then Matt? Why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick? Tell us what instruments you play, and yeah, we'll start there.
Sure. I'm Brett. I play lead guitar in the band.
My name's Matt. I play rhythm guitar and I do backup vocals.
And I'm Bill and I play the drums.
Awesome. Well, we've been super pumped to have you guys on, right? This has been a long time coming. I've been going back and forth with who runs your socials currently?
Mostly me. Yeah.
Okay. So we've been going back and forth. It's been like a couple months that we've been chatting, and finally we got you guys on. So how have you guys been?
It's been well. Yeah, can't complain. Life's good.
Yeah, life is good. Life's good. It's a little busy, but it's good, in all the right ways.
Certainly.
So
nice.
Yeah. I'll just say that it's always fun when we do these interviews when we don't have vocalists. Not that we have anything against vocalists, but we like it when the other band members get to talk too. So we're super grateful that you guys could jump on. So yeah,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course, it's a pleasure.
So, Plead the Widow's Cause. When did you guys start? Start there.
I'll let Matt answer this one because he's been around the longest.
Oh my goodness, it's been a few years now. At the tail end of another project we were doing, and it was kind of something where the singer that we had decided to step back for personal reasons, and we were kind of left floundering. We took a little bit of a break, and I think we were actually at your guys' other band's show, Bill, Nave. It was at Harper's Pub,
right
I
on.
think. And yeah. And I think I was looking at James and Ian, and I was like we got to keep going. You know what I mean? We got to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that fell to a year or so of writing and trying to find out what kind of sound we wanted, and decided to keep pursuing the post-hardcore thing with more of a heavier edge. You know what I mean? And over time, the songs in our first album, Pain Split, kind of came to fruition and came together through multiple efforts and the efforts of former members and current members. It's pretty cool, long, little bit of a drawn out process, but it's we're very careful. I think, we want to be very careful what we make into Plead the Widow's Cause. You know what I mean? And what we allow to see the light of day.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I gotcha. So you guys started after Harvey Cedars, right? That was the project before.
That's correct. Yes, for sure.
Cool. I've listened to it all, right? So Harvey Cedars, it was really dope too.
Oh,
so
thank you.
absolutely. So Matt, Ian, and then so Brett and Bill, are you guys the new members, or how long have you guys been together? What has been this process over the last year or so since there's been a little bit of a lineup change?
So I'm on the newest edition, myself and Mitch. So we've been playing together in the scene for years, better of a decade. And I was in a metalcore band called The Artisan for a long time. And then that band, kind of went on hiatus. We didn't break it up, but Kyle moved to West Virginia, and prior to that did van life and traveled with his wife. Mike, he moved down to Florida, had great opportunities to move down there. So we still write music for fun, but it's not an active band anymore. And then I'd entered the cover band circuit because Nave, we were busy for a little while. We did the EP that we just put out, and then Maddie's playing in Joe. So Maddie's touring schedule is pretty demanding, and very excited for Maddie. It's huge. And from there I just did the cover circuit for a while, and then when I had the opportunity to play original music again, it was just a very exciting prospect to get back into the heavier roots. Kind of brush off the rust off the double pedal, and not play just pop covers and stuff and bar band stuff. So it's been refreshing just to get back into a heavier style again.
Nice.
So did you wrote the drum parts then for the most recent album?
No. For Pain Split, that was James, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So is it I mean, I dabbled a little bit in guitar. I'm by no means a musician at all. But drums are like completely foreign to me. So what's it like coming though from different genres? Because I kind of understand it from a guitar standpoint, right? But from a drum standpoint, is it like really difficult to kind of switch genres like that? Or is it
Um,
all kind of flow together?
I've always been blessed to be diverse in my playing. My grandfather that bought my first drum set, he was a big like jazz guy, so he wanted me to learn like Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa and Cozy Cole and all that kind of stuff, and kind of make him proud. Did some jazz stuff in the beginning, but rock became pretty evident that was my genre of choice, and real big into like Led Zeppelin at the time, Metallica. A lot of people
Cool.
clown on Lars, but I mean, he's iconic. That band's doing really well for a reason. I'd argue that that band wouldn't be what they are now if they didn't have him. And like that's the cool thing about drums is no two drummers play the same way. Everyone has their own sense of time and feel. And you can have them try to play verbatim the same parts, but it's just never going to have that same essence. So that's what's been very interesting at rehearsals, just trying to, play the EP, but then you add your own color and like embellishments and try to make it your own a little bit, try to serve the song, but then also, make it to where people realize, okay, it is a new lineup. It's not going to sound the same, as it did before, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then that opens up the table for growth as we, evolve, working on an album right now. It'll be very exciting to just to meld the minds, and just start to get a little bit more, I guess like together cohesive, as a unit, personally, musician wise,
Absolutely,
like
yes.
it takes a little while to, build that chemistry and feel out how everyone plays. And, it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been interesting.
Cool. And then Brett, have you been there since then Pain Split came out, or when did you join the band?
Yeah, so I joined the band almost a year before Pain Split came out. I
Okay.
think Matt had reached out to me because they were looking for another guitarist, and he was like, "Hey, you want to try out for my band?" I was like, "Sure." Like the band didn't even have a name at that point, so
I think
Okay.
we met. I think we met at a child's birthday party.
we
Like,
did.
like
My
my
cousin's child's birthday party.
yeah, because my daughter and their child were they're friends, and so we got the invite. And I remember we like linked up or something to just like shot the breeze. And I don't know what band you said you liked. I think I don't know if it was Stretch Armstrong or
That was
something.
probably Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, like.
Yeah.
And I was like, gotta keep that in the back of my mind. And then I remember your name came up during a practice. I was like, I gotta shoot Brett an email, see if he wants to do this. And but nah, it's ever since then it kind of you came over and you fit right in from the get go, and it was just from there we had I think the songs were 90% written for Pain Split, and then I think one or two. I know True Love came on after that. I believe Ian busted that one out like a month before we went up to the studio. Like, hold on, guys, let's do this. But so, and then that's sort of how that happened. But yeah, you're an original member, Brett. I mean, you've been there since
Technically, I guess.
effectively. Well, I
There
mean,
you
it was
go.
the rest of it was us from Harvey Cedars trying to figure out like what was happening and what to do. So it's cool.
I'm
Well, I
just
mean,
glad
listen.
I'm just glad that one of you guys had a kid because you said you met at a kid's birthday party. So I was like, oh, okay, we're good.
Yep.
It's always like that random hardcore dude who just is there just to hang out, he's just
Yeah.
a friend. But listen, that's my bad. It was Mitch who's the new member, so my bad on that.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But okay, cool. So, dude, Pain Split's awesome, but you guys have some new music coming out. So you guys have been writing. This has been released since 2022. Do you guys like just bust out music? Have you guys just been writing for 2 years? Like, what has been the process since Pain Split's come out to where we are today?
Wow. Yeah. I feel like we have waves of like creative, just like whether it's the music or lyrics, and it's just like comes in waves. I feel like, at least for me, I think for Ian too and Matt, like it's just like, Ian will just drop like a demo in the band chat and just be like, hey guys, what do you think about this? Like, I just recorded this, and throw vocals over it if he has vocals or lyrics. But yeah, I think it's like literally as soon as we released Pain Split, we started writing like new songs, and some of them have carried over into what we're planning to release on the next record. But there's been a ton of stuff, coming up month after month, just new ideas coming out.
Sometimes things,
Okay.
sometimes things that emerge also, we find them getting pushed to the wayside a little bit. It's like, it's like we'll like how something sounds, and then it's just like we'll send it to the back burner, and then it'll rear its head again a little bit later in the game. And it's just not that we're indecisive. I think that sometimes an idea for something, especially like you're saying, Ian will just like have those creative flares, especially like with his parts and parts that may have lain dormant for a while will come forth again in a new and positive way, which is always really encouraging.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So so we've talked to a couple different bands. There's some bands who go into like the studio to record or whatever, and they've got like 12 songs and they're cutting it down to like 9 to 10, right? Are you guys a band that have like 30 songs and you're now like, this is going to be on this album, in 4 years we'll release this one? Like, do you guys just, it's been constant creation. I assume that you have a catalog of music that's just ready, well, not ready to go, right? But at least ideas. What do you guys like hope to enter with versus like final product?
I mean, like right now we've got 11 songs that we're like pretty set at like, this is going to be the next album. It's these 11 songs. We have maybe a handful of other ones that are kind of like in the, we're keeping them, but they need some work, we kind of want to tweak them or change stuff here and there. But I wouldn't say there's like that many songs in the back burners. There's a good handful, but we have a solid 11 that we want to release on this next record.
Yeah, 11 that are effectively done, I believe, save for some tweaking and some polishing up on a few parts. But 11 that we're quite sure are going to make the final cut for sure.
Sweet. So Matt, right at the beginning of this, you said something that kind of caught my attention. You said that you guys were very particular and very conscious about what was going to become Plead. So your guys' sound, just disclaimer for you guys, tomorrow is dropping an episode where we are talking about you guys. And so we're releasing we're recording this before you guys had a chance to hear our crappy opinions on what's happening. But what we've talked about is there are often times where you guys feel very melodic hardcore. And if it wasn't just for like this part where you break it up with the clean scene and slow it down a little bit, we'd be considering you guys more of a melodic hardcore band than a post-hardcore band. And so you're definitely on the heavier side of that. Is that the intention with Plead? Is it just what felt natural? Like, when you said you were particular about it, what was that particular sound you guys were shooting for?
I think me speaking on behalf of Ian, who is effectively the majority of our writing engine comes from Ian at this point. And I would say that most of our writing musically, I think, comes from what feels natural and what feels good to write. And it sounds silly and generic to say, but I think that in the end, whether that's a very heavy song or whether it's something you feel you want to express with, clean vocals or shouting as a group, I think that, as long as it feels authentic, it's important to pursue that end, and I think that you'll see that on the new record. I think that we lean very hard into the post-hardcore in a lot of aspects, I think, to where it's like, oh, maybe this one, this track isn't as heavy, but then there's a couple other ones that come back and it's like, wow, this I think makes up for it. This catches up in the other end, but it's not, I think, one adding where the other's lacking. I think it's a form of being authentic and showing range, because, one of the things we do want to do is, and one of the things we can do, I think, being post-hardcore, is show a range of writing styles and a range of song types that other bands may not be able to do or may not want to do, and I'm pretty excited, for what's going to come out of that. And I think that was sort of how it was with Pain Splits. Like, you had songs that were definitely very singy and post-hardcore, but then you had like fight riffs going on, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And and like that's what we want, but it's got to be in a way that's very cohesive and doesn't feel fake, like uh, it's got to be real, and we want to be very careful that what we do in everything is as real as it's supposed to be, as much as it represents us and what it is we stand for and what we're trying to say.
So, I mean, we've done this podcast for like maybe a little over a year. Um, and I think one of the biggest things we harp on a lot of modern music is that it doesn't feel like real and authentic. We go see shows and people can't play a show because they lost their laptop, so they can't, like, they don't have this huge backtrack, so they can't play it anymore, and I always joke around that, like, if you sound too good live, I don't believe it. I don't like it. Right. You should sound a little crappy live, because that means you're really playing it. But, me and Trevor grew up in this era that was like, things like Artist in the Ambulance, they're only chasing safety, Burden of a Day, all those albums. Like, this sound of post-hardcore with a little bit of metalcore is really like this really nostalgic, makes us think back. And you'll hear it on the episode tomorrow. We kind of talk about, like, this is a sound that makes us feel nostalgic for when we got into this music. And, we've progressed and grown and gotten into like some really ignorant, heavy music and stuff. So we appreciate that there are fight riffs in your music. Right. But I just, I think what you guys have done is created such a really cool, unique sound that's nostalgic for people like me and Trevor that grew up in the MySpace era, but it's not cheesy. It's not corny. It's not like overdone or lame, but it's very unique, but nostalgic at the same time. So, that's like a long-winded way for me to tell you that, like, yeah, I really like your guys' music. It's cool what you're doing, so we appreciate it.
Thank you. That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
in the current band, what are you guys listening to? Right? Because obviously, I always find this interesting. I read a bunch of interviews where the band members are like, my influences are, and they name like 80s bands, and they're playing like hardcore and like metal music. I'm like, you're not listening to like that style of music and then producing like these heavy breakdowns. You know what I mean? Like, it's not coming from that. So, like, what are you guys like currently listening to? What are some current influences that you guys are currently drawing from? And let's start actually with Bill, right? Because the drumming in this like scene today, I do feel like we actually talk about it in the episode. There's the other band we're talking about is like a heavy beatdown band, and the drum patterns just added so much to it. So, like, what are you like listening to? And we'll just kind of roll through the three of you.
So recently, I'm enjoying the new Wage War release. So big fan of Wage War. A lot of people are arguing that they don't feel that this new record's as good as the Manic record. Um, I don't like to compare. I think comparison's a thief of joy. If you like older music, then just listen to that music. But for bands to say, oh, they changed their sound, like, I almost look at that as, you as a person, where it's like, oh, you haven't changed a bit. That's the worst thing you could ever hear ever, is that you haven't changed. You should look back at every decade of your life and say, like, wow, I'm cringing at, this time hop of a post I made 10 years ago. Like, I'm an idiot, but, so the Wage War album, as far as like current, like heavier, music, I was a big fan of Bad Omens. The Death of Peace of Mind was a great record that I jammed until I couldn't listen to it anymore. Just played it to death. But then coming from a cover band background, I've been in the Lenahan band for roughly 2 years. And just always listening to like the modern stuff, you know what I mean? Like what's that new song that was it Morgan Wallen and Post Malone? I Had Some Help.
Yeah.
So I was like, that kind of stuff, and just like the modern radio hits. But to kind of piggyback on the previous conversation, is that music today feels so disingenuous sometimes, where you're just checking boxes and don't leave the formula. Don't bore us, go right to the chorus. Play it 3-4 times. Maybe like verse chorus. Dare I say, put a bridge in there, but sometimes not even. And it's just very interesting. And I know this band's been like, kind of canceled, but recently I just saw As I Lay Dying at the TLA in Philly. And that's a band that really got me into metalcore. I'll be honest. I mean, I listened to them, freshman year of high school. I was like, this band is insane. The Shadows Are Security, and just Jordan Mancino is just one of those drummers where his meter was just phenomenal. I mean, you listen to Nothing Left, it's a marathon. That dude's doing 30-second note rolls with his feet for 4 minutes. It's impressive. So As I Lay Dying would definitely be one of my biggest influences. And then as like the metalcore era really started to evolve and expand, then you started getting into like August Burns Red, and Matt Greiner like really changed the industry as far as his playing and proficiency. And then Texas in July, which was very much like, I don't want to use the term like carbon copy, but it was kind of like that Lancaster core where they all started kind of, trying to come together and one up each other. But Adam Gray is one of the greatest drummers in metal, in my opinion. I mean, just taking the hard hitting dynamic playing, but then really introducing rudiments and rolls, and his finesse is just incredible. So, and I was fortunate enough to play with them a couple times, and they were super nice guys. They'd watch us play. We're just like local nobodies, so like to see like bigger bands that actually watch you, and then critique you, and then talk to them and say, hey, listen, like what did you notice? What should we work on? And then to get that actual feedback instead of playing shows where you kind of meet your idols and then you're a little upset to realize that they're kind of jerks, you know what I mean? And like they once you reach a certain threshold, you kind of forget where you came from, and it's just very refreshing sometimes when you can talk to some of these bands that you admire, and again get that feedback and like what works, what doesn't work. But yeah, I'm kind of all over the place with music, to be honest. I mean, one day I can listen to Frank Sinatra, and the next day I'm listening to Whitechapel. So it's all over the place, and I love it just because I don't fall in love with parts when I'm writing. So when I go into a studio, I'll play things like to whatever the MIDI is or whatever like the preconceived thought was, and then from there say, hey guys, what if I tried this? And then like this, let's do another take, try something different, and then just kind of workshop that and say, oh, I kind of like how you ended this section, but kind of wish that you take the first half of what was preconceived, and that's how you really start to grow the song. And not be afraid to make changes. Like I always look at music as a song's never really finished. You just get to a point where I'm tired of working on it. Let's move on. And you listen back to that music and go, oh my gosh, like, and after you gig and you play it and you rehearse it to death, it's like, man, I'm an idiot. I should have did this, and this. And that's what makes the live performance so interesting, is you don't necessarily have to play it note for note that you did in the studio. It's going to evolve as you evolve as a player. And that's what's so timeless about music. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What about you, Brett?
So more modern stuff that has been influencing a lot of the writing and stuff like that. Magnitude, definitely one of the big ones. I love their new record that they just put out. One Step Closer.
Yeah, I was about to
really enjoying their new record as well. It's so good. Really good post-hardcore melodic stuff. A lot of the more like throwback metalcore that's coming out recently. Foreign Hands, their new record, so good.
Yeah.
So good.
There's a couple other bands. There's one called The Test Stream from Northern California. They're really good. Purist Bond is like a San Diego metalcore throwback kind of band. There's like all that kind of stuff, kind of just like hardcore metalcore, post-hardcore, melodic hardcore, all kind of like merging together. So those are kind of the ones that I've really been enjoying recently.
That's awesome. The Foreign Hands album is incredible. Yeah. The other one that really like caught my attention and like was like, oh my gosh, this feels like I Killed the Prom Queen back in the day, was Balmora. Balmora is insane.
Yep.
Really.
That tour that they're going on with Dying Wish, Pain of Truth, Balmora, and Out of Pocket, that looks incredible.
Oh yeah, so, and Life's Question, their new EP was so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. So good.
A lot of they took so much creative like liberty with that. It was awesome to hear that. Like the singing, the melodic parts, the hardcore part, like it was great.
Dude, that's awesome. And then Matt, where are you at?
So I want to say, just right off the cuff, that One Step Closer's new album has had a death grip on me. I've been listening to that back to front probably at least once a week. I love Gridiron, honestly. The music that they've been
Nice.
putting out is really good. Yeah. One band that had kind of jumped out at me recently was one called Eyes of the Lord, which is a little bit of a smaller band, but you should check them out if you haven't heard them. They're fantastic. Um, and then what's it called? Banishment is fantastic. I love Banishment. Life's Question, I think, again, like you said, their EP was fantastic. Foreign Hands, shout out Chuck, our friend Chuck. He's in Foreign Hands, and they just, their album was so good. I think also with Foreign Hands, if you go back, they put out a split years and years ago um, called Lapsed Requiems with Cassid Blood, and the songs on that
Oh
just,
yeah.
they're so good. Like Book of Lies by Cassid Blood, just such a strong start for that album. It's
Yeah.
it's just so good. And then, of course, Jesus Piece. I love Jesus Piece. I think with them, I really liked their latest release, So Unknown. But I think that throwing it back to 2015, they're self-titled. I remember listening to that EP on repeat when I was doing factory work, just like throwing batches together and just having Jesus Piece on, knocking against the concrete walls, just like you couldn't even hear anything. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
It was just so good,
Dude,
man.
them boundaries.
Oh
There's this
yeah.
band out of Colorado called Mouth for War,
Oh yeah,
like in Foreign
absolutely.
Hands. Like those guys are like carrying metalcore like on their backs right now, in my opinion. So that stuff's so good.
Yeah.
Mm.
When you said Eyes of the Lord and Gridiron, the Missing Link album,
Yes, yes.
like
Oh my
a new
goodness.
Missing Link,
Oh
I
yeah,
was like, I know I've recently like seen that. So
yeah.
yeah, they're both guest vocalists on that, and that
Yep.
album was incredible as well.
Yeah, Missing Link's
So
been hitting hard. A New York Minute is just like such a banger. That is just, oh my goodness.
man, like This Is Hardcore Fest is happening right now, and there's so many bands
Yeah.
that are just incredible. And that's like out by you guys, right?
It's right across the bridge. Yeah.
Right across the bridge.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys slip over to This Is Hardcore and check out that fest every now and again?
I have not gone to This Is Hardcore. I didn't. I honestly wasn't like super aware of the scene until like later in life.
Okay.
But yeah, they've been doing some cool. Like I've been able to go some of the other hardcore shows that they've been throwing. Like Philly Hardcore does a lot of shows.
Yeah.
But they're always a good time.
Mm.
Yeah. They're freaking wild. So,
Mhm.
no, that's awesome. So, Bill, I've got just take one shot at what you said, right? So, you said, if you're not changing and not progressing, like, are you really growing kind of thing? And I'm probably notorious for anyone who listens to be like, my favorite stuff is like the 2006 album. It doesn't matter if it was the best album, the worst album. It was the album that I listened to and I grew up with kind of thing. So I'm like, no, like if that was your peak, make more of your peak. Like, no,
What Trevor's saying is that he peaked in 2006. So.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good way to put it. And condolences to you for, the passing of your grandpa there. For me, when my grandpa passed, this is going to sound so cheesy, right? But my grandpa was from England. He came over after World War II.
Mm.
And so he was an avid soccer fan, like back before like MLS was a thing or anything. I used to go sit at his house and we'd watch Mexican League soccer on mute to big band music, drinking wild cherry Pepsi. So wild cherry Pepsi, big band music, and any sort of soccer. And it's just like, yeah, my grandpa's right there by me.
I
So
mean,
I absolutely understand that.
shoot,
That's
dog. I'll
amazing.
add to it. My grandma just passed too, like a couple months ago, and we went to Guatemala to visit my wife's family, like right after her passing and stuff. And for some reason, like Latinos and Guatemalans love karaoke. Like they absolutely love it. All right, every party's got karaoke. There's a party down there. They brought karaoke. For some reason, they assume every white person can sing "Country Road," John Denver. And so they start playing that, but it's funny because that's my grandma's like favorite artist is John Denver. And so it was just it's the same thing, right? Like it's nostalgia. Like it brings you back. It's comfort food. I really like that definition, and there's power to it. And just hearing you say that like you're very intentional with what you put into Plead the Widow's Cause, and that's what it is, right? Like that's the legacy and the power that you're leaving behind in your music that some kid's going to be sitting there going through whatever he's going through, and he's going to put on your album and be like, this is it for me. Like this is what gets me through it. And yeah, that's why we're all here. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been one of the most encouraging things. Like we've had people come up at shows and stuff and been like, man, these songs have like helped me a lot through like really tough times. And it's just like, it's humbling because you're like, I just wrote this song and it's impacting people like in their personal lives. And it's pretty cool.
It's awesome. That's incredible.
That's great.
So, go ahead, Trevor.
No, go for it.
All right. So, we did an episode a few months ago where we were talking about Sleeping Giant.
Yes.
Awesome band, right? And when we were doing some research about them, a lot of people on the internet were talking about how Christianity has no place in hardcore or this type of music, right? And my response to them was like, you've never been beaten up in a church, in the basement of a church, a Sleeping Giant, and it shows, right?
Oh man, yeah.
But, we grew up on the Face Down bands, on the Solid State bands, on the Tooth and Nail bands, very important music to us. And a lot of these kids that maybe grow up in environments that aren't productive to them, this music is an outlet to them, right? It's a way to get out and experience the world. And so I think it is very appropriate, but what's your guys' take on that? Why this like specificity of being a Christian band, having that type of, I don't know if you call yourself a Christian band, but your name comes from the Bible, right? So
it does.
It's
obviously
and, intentional.
It is, and we are a Christian band. We're careful to say that as well. I would say that I can speak for all of us where we draw strength in our common belief in what Jesus Christ did and his accomplishment for us on the cross and what he did to take our place in it for a debt that we couldn't repay. And our name comes from Isaiah 1. And if we go to Isaiah 1 and we go to verse 16, we start with, wash yourselves, make yourselves clean. This is talking about a warning of great wrath to come to one of the ancient lands over in that time. It says, wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your deeds from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. And it continues in verse 18 and it says, come now, let us reason together, says the Lord. Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they shall become like wool. If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be eaten by the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And so we take that very seriously. and that is also what you could say is, I mean, effectively, I don't know if mission statement is appropriate, but it's serves as a cornerstone from, at least not all of our songs reflects that. Certainly, we write lyrics. I know, speaking for myself, I write lyrics regarding everything from um, great loss, great personal loss, to things I'm dealing with, to things I've seen others deal with, to a crazy story that I heard, or something that impacted me deeply that way. But I think it serves as an important foundation where we have a common moral compass and a standard, an objective standard of truth. And I think that's where we can draw purpose from. When something is true and correct, there can be no objection to it. And there's different opinions and everything like that, but that's where we would 100% say we stake our claim.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you feel like though that it can get counterintuitive to hardcore or the genre, right? I mean, and I'm not
In what way?
I mean, obviously, I'm not like.
In what way?
I just, a lot of people talk about hardcore being anti-establishment, don't tell me what to do. And again, I'm not like, this is me and Trevor, not
Of course.
like we're with you guys, right? Like,
No, hey,
like I'm not digging a hole. I think that it's important though that people understand that, like, when you pigeonhole hardcore to only being one thing, like, you take a lot of people out of it that can get into it, right? And I do think there is a place for Christian hardcore, right? Like, I do think there is a place for it.
Yeah, I think like the thing that pops in my mind is No Innocent Victim is like their song My Beliefs. They're literally saying, I thought hardcore was about standing up for what you believe in, and this is what we believe in. So this is what we're, it just kind of goes hand in hand. Like there's all different bands with all different beliefs that, sing about what they believe in. So it's, this is our outlet for doing that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you guys. And again, like Kyle said, we grew up on that stuff. We don't really talk about it on this podcast too much just because we prefer just to talk about music, but we come from Christian backgrounds as well. Like, that's where we come from. So we're with you guys, right? But it is one of those things that, like, it's such a divisive thing. And then, honestly, like, I just feel like it's unproductive. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't necessarily agree with the band's message, don't listen to that band. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to, like, bash someone or, like, try to take them down or criticize them in any sort of way. One of the things that I thought was interesting when all of the Under Oath stuff started happening, right? Because Under Oath was the face of Christian hardcore for a long time. And then Spencer Chamberlain comes out, he makes all of his statements. But I recently listened to a podcast with Spencer, and he said, listen, Christianity just wasn't for me. I probably have done a poor job in expressing, like, how I felt and, like, the way that it was, like, leading me down a path and things along those lines. I'm not against Christianity. Like, people can believe what they believe, but the way he said things and the way that people have taken them, they were like, he's anti-religion. He's like, no, man, you guys do you. Like, it's just not my path at this time. And so it's been a weird dynamic where I think that there was such a generation of us who grew up on Scream the Prayer Tour, who grew up on these bands, where it was like 18, 19, 20-year-olds all going to these shows, prayers before, messages during, all of that kind of stuff. And my personal thought is that I think that it just got beat over everyone's head to the point where that there was just a break. And that was go for it.
I think it also became disingenuous too, because I know Spencer and Aaron, they talk a lot about how they were marketed so much as a Christian band when that may not have been what they actually were. You know what I mean? So like that whole like era, there was so many bands getting pumped out left and right on all different labels, and because they got pushed out as a, Christian band, they had higher record sales or better attendance at their shows, things like that. So I think that
labels that you could only get on by doing that, right?
Exactly. And I think that's also a big part of it too, is like, we want our music to say something, but also make you feel something because of what we're saying. You know, it's not like we're trying, like Matt said, we want it to be real. We want it to be genuine, not disingenuous, just pushing a product in a way.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
yeah,
great.
to be honest with you, we get that feeling too, you know, like we have a lot of bands that we talk to and we're huge fans of you guys because we can feel the authenticity and the genuineness in it, you know? So yeah, like I'm sorry if any of that came off as like combative.
no.
It's not at all, right? Like
no.
Yeah, I just, you know, it's a really interesting dichotomy right now in hardcore. And a lot of people are like, dude, it doesn't belong. And I'm like, well, it does. And this is the only outlet. That was the only outlet I had growing up.
Yeah,
you know,
me too.
I had a rough time at home, like, you know, but I still believed. I still believed, like, going to hardcore shows with these Christian bands that gave me, like, I don't want to say purpose, but it was like, hey, these are people that feel the same way I do, but also believe the same thing I do. And I belong here, you know? And shoot, man, I listen to like Life's Question and Judiciary that have very like anti-religion lyrics.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that's cool, man. Like, you guys do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm here for good music, you know?
Exactly.
100%. I think what happens sometimes too, a lot of the time, too much. I think that there is and was, there is such scrutiny when you, particularly from that community, the youth group core community, when a band is said to be, you know, a Christian band or a religious band of any kind. I think that there's an unintentional microscope that happens where people will superimpose their own standards on people. Right. And oh my goodness, man, it is so easy to get broken down. And the other thing that happens is people start treating these shows, you know, whether intentionally or unintentionally, like, you know, like it's their church. And it's not church. Your church is your church. Your local church is your church. A hardcore show is a hardcore show. And, you know, our music, you know, while, you know, we would love for everybody to listen to it. It's not written for Christians. It's written for everybody. And we're telling, you know, I'm expressing, you know, the things I've experienced and things I'm feeling and stories I've told through my perspective as a Christian. But it's not something that, this is for Christians only. And, like, nah, man, I'm out there listening to, to Missing Link and to Trapped Under Ice and Terror and all that. Like, nah, man, it's not about that. It's a lot bigger than that, I think. And what happens when you put someone under a microscope of scrutiny like that, as that community tends to do intentionally or unintentionally, is that people tend to buckle down, and either they will double down in a negative way or they will run in the opposite direction. And that is one thing that, we want to, our goal is to be above reproach. We can't do that in and of our own strength, but we're going to try our best, with what we've been given,
Yeah. Dude, these are,
well said.
Yeah, well said. These are awesome takes. Well said. So respect, honestly, respect. This is, not that it matters much. I'm a schmuck, like no one cares.
So one of the things that we talked about on the episode, so what we do is we do a local band series, right? And essentially what it is we go around the country. We don't care where bands are from. We've happened to talk a lot about South Jersey, Philly bands kind of thing, because you guys just put out such good music. We just have congregated to that area, but we try to do across the country. The other band that we talked about was a Texas band, and they're Beatdown. And this wasn't a shot at that band specifically, because their message is actually pretty interesting as well if you read about the band. But what we talked about was this style of music, melodic hardcore, post-hardcore kind of stuff. You have already talked about the genuineness of it. There's Beatdown. You can make a gimmick beatdown band, right? And you can just straight up be no, F you, F the world kind of thing, middle fingers up is the way we phrased it. You can't do that with post-hardcore and melodic hardcore. So and maybe we're going to get kind of circling back around on some of this stuff, but have you guys ever written a song where you're it doesn't cut it? It's too gimmicky. It's too on the nose kind of thing. Or do you just feel if you're writing it and it's what you're feeling at the time, it's appropriate to put out there?
The answer to that is yes, we 100% have, and those songs are in a folder somewhere. 100%. Yeah, like sometimes there was one we just had. It's not that it was like gimmicky, but we were finished the song and we looked at it and we were just like, nope, it ain't doing it. It ain't making the cut. And it was okay. Like it was, Ian, like musically, I felt that musically, a great job was done. I wrote the lyrics on it, and at the end of the day, we looked at it and it was like, this isn't what we want to put out, so it's getting shelved. You know what I mean? For better or for worse. So that does and has happened to us, on occasion. So definitely yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I'm hoping like I'm not misstating that. Right? Like you have to have a lot of intent behind this music. I actually feel like this music is probably pretty difficult to write, to come together with. And like as a band, do you ever get to the point where someone's like, man, like you can't really say that because like I don't feel that way? Or is there ever any of those discussions that happen? Lots of looking up right now.
Yeah.
Lots of
trying to
pondering.
Yeah.
Could you
add a moment like that?
I don't know. So wait, could you ask that question again? I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Yeah. No, for sure. So like some of the like melodic hardcore, listen, we talk about this band a lot. Anyone who's listened and knows we talk about them a lot. No Bragging Rights is a huge band. I'm wearing a No Bragging Rights shirt right now. You can't see it, but they talk a lot about mental health. They talk a lot about like suicide and suicide prevention and like going through difficult things. I often wonder if there's ever a time when like they're writing the lyrics or writing the music where they're like, that hits too close to home. Like
okay.
I don't want that song to come out, or vice versa. Like you're going too far down a political rabbit hole or something like that, where I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with that song coming out as like a band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just thought, Matt, I just thought of one of the new songs where one of the lyrics, you were like, you wrote the lyric and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I want my kids to hear this.
Yeah.
That's what came to mind.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, there's one of the songs that's coming out. It's written about a member of my family, but not so much about them as much, because I want to be careful. Like, in my original draft of the lyrics to the song, which, hopefully, Lord willing, in a few short months, you will be able to hear. Some of the words that I used to describe the actions of the person were a little less than gracious. And while I'm all for calling a spade, and I do as necessary, there are more nuanced way to say things sometimes where you can paint a picture with more of an alliteration versus just saying something dead out where you might take away.
Still has to be art.
Yeah, well, 100%. Yeah, like it's, without destroying the integrity of something, you can make it more nuanced and come off a little bit better. And that's the other thing. I think one of my goals with this, not that like, I'm going to, not let my kids listen to music, but I want my kids to be able to listen to the songs that I put out, but at the same time, I'm all for, encouraging questions to be asked about things too, so in no way is the integrity of the lyrics or the song sacrificed. I think in the conclusion of that was a better, I think, outcome. You know what I mean, Brett? Your suggestions were good, and I think the outcome's going to be better. I like it. So that's interesting.
No, that's awesome. The fact that you were able to like workshop it together and be able to like be like, okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, I said it what I feel is maybe a little bit poorly in this moment. And then be able to come up with another way to say the same thing. Like that's awesome. I wish I could do that with Kyle on this podcast.
I don't know what that means, dude. I have nothing but like real good, well thought out takes, man. So, if Trevor could mute me, I bet you he would half the time. Our episodes would be 10 minutes long. So it is interesting what you said, though. I think it was Garrett Rapp from The Color Morale that said that it's difficult to get up on stage every night and sing a lot of the songs he wrote, because they talk about very personal, real things that happened to him. And he's like, I never thought that I'd be going 7 to 10 years of singing about this, and it's hard. So I guess that's like the, you know, I guess, pardon the pun, but the cross to bear when you put your stuff on your sleeve. Yeah, you have to own that now for the career of the band, like that's you through those words. So
It's funny that you say that too, because that's almost like, and I didn't think about it until just now, but like with things like that, with you got me thinking about the Color Morale and going back to Scream the Prayer and all that. But when you write lyrics about something like that, that's also got to be another way of dealing with something like, intentionally or otherwise. You have to continually confront every time you sing the lyrics, or unless you're completely just taking yourself out of it. But that's also got to be, if you're not dealing with it correctly, that is another, blow on the mental health if you're not getting the care you need and dealing with things the right way. So that's definitely something to be aware of too, for sure.
Man, I wonder how many of like the Underoaths and stuff like that who put out these like, they claim not Christian songs, but Christian songs, and now they're like avoiding it. I wonder how much of that was the nail in the coffin for them, just like shunning what they're doing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you just alluded to it, Matt. When are we getting new music?
Well, there's no release date as of yet, but I will say this: studio time has been booked, and we are currently working on right now, and going forward until the beginning of the new year. We're working on the preliminary stages of the tracking process. So hopefully, fingers crossed, at some point pretty soon after the new year begins, I would say. Fingers crossed.
Can you share where you're recording or who you're recording with?
Of course, we're going back to Nada Recordings, the same studio we did our first album at, working with John Niclario, our boy. So shout out John, he's great. We love him.
Oh yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
So Bill, we didn't. Yeah. What are your plans? So you've played in bands, but have you ever like actually written like music for stuff, or is this kind of a new experience for you? Nice. Yeah. 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 So do these guys help you with your stuff when you are packing or loading a truck, or do they just make you do it all? Okay.
Zoom.
Yeah,
Mm.
sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Sweet.
that's
So,
awesome.
last question for me. Matt, you said you have kids, or at least a kid. Uh, when, if possible, are we going to get something all the way out west with Plead?
Or Texas around, man.
No, screw Texas. He can drive. He can come to Utah.
Hey, yo.
I'm closer to them, dude. It's
Actually,
easier to
Texas is
come to
really
me.
bad for bands. Like, I'll be honest.
I'm not opposed to anything. I think if we're intentional with it, we can. We've been successful traveling out of state and going south gently. But I think that there was something earlier last year where we were tentatively looking into going into California for something before it fell through. So no, I don't think we'd say no to anything if it was given the proper plan and time to flourish. Like, shoot, my wife's great. Like, easy going. I'd throw the kids in the car and take them with me. I mean, I don't know, like it'd be great.
Sweet.
Heck yeah.
They'd be fun. I got 3 kids. I got a daughter who's 7 and 2 sons. 5 and 3, and they're just a heck of a good time. And like I said, my wife's great and easygoing, and I think that given enough planning and being creative with it, I think we could make pretty much anything happen. I can't just jump in the van like when I was
Tomorrow, right?
yeah. Like, it's not like we're 18 or 15 anymore. You know what I mean? But I think that if we are very careful and intentional, I'm positive we can make something happen. You know what I mean? Definitely.
Sick. Well, like family caravan, Plead, like 4 cars all going out west. It sounds like a great plan.
It does.
So, and listen, I guess you can go down to Texas if you really want to deal with that heat kind of thing. So,
Dude, it's not bad. It wasn't exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
that's
Barbecue,
a lot of money for some food.
It's crazy. This dude's crazy, man. He lives in Utah. It's known for Jello. Like, go to Utah, man. Enjoy your green Jello.
Oh no.
Listen, it's all good. Well, guys, seriously, we really do appreciate you guys. The music is fantastic. For anyone who hasn't heard so far, the album is Pain Split. Is it technically an album, or do you guys call it an EP? We had this debate too.
I think we called it an album.
Yeah, we call it an album. It may be like it's like it has like it's like right on that threshold of like it's an EP, but like if calling it an album isn't incorrect, so we're just calling it an album.
You guys can call it whatever you want. It's great. Definitely check it out. Honestly, like my favorite songs from it, right off the bat, Disrespect for a Voice Unheard, and then Spirits Away. I'm a sucker for the melodic hardcore, so having that little bit of picked up tempo stuff, they were great. But the whole album is fantastic, so everyone should check that out. Why don't you guys quickly shout out social medias? We will tag everything. We'll make sure that we include you guys on stuff. But where can they find you?
Yeah, we're on Instagram at Plead the Widow's Cause. We're on Facebook. I think that's about it. We're on YouTube. We have some random videos up there, but yeah, we just have I think we did studio vlogs when we were in there last time. We might do some ones for the next record too. Maybe we'll throw them up there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, other than that, we got music up on Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music. Merch is up on Bandcamp. Yeah, I think. Am I forgetting anything, Matt?
I don't think so. I do know that we have copious amounts of stickers. So if you do want to buy something from our merch store, we will be sure to throw in quite a few of them, if you please. Nice. So just wanted to put that. on there as well.
Awesome. Okay, well that's it for me. Kyle, you have anything else?
No, I'm good. This was cool. I'm really glad I got to talk to you guys. So big fan of the music, and when you guys head down here, man, I'll invite you to some Texas barbecue.
Right on.
Cool. Well, thanks again. We'll catch you guys hopefully when the new music comes out.
Thank you guys.
Thank
you guys so much. This was a joy. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course.
Anytime.
Our pleasure.
Anytime.
Peace.
Bye.